right, so let's get on to 5 bold predictions for 2022 season. And hopefully you'll find these interesting. In the comments, what you can do is you can rate them as bold as you want to. You can 10 is the boldest, 1 is not bold at all, how likely you think they are, comment what you think is the area that you think that the prediction would kind of fall into. Now, my first one, I think it's fairly bold. I think it's got some boldness to it. Okay, so I think we're going to return to it's kind of a two-parter too. Return to a top 20 offense, and we're going to have over 6,000 total yards, which will be our first time to do this since 2018 with Jimbo, and we also did it in 2016. Those were kind of the most recent ones. Obviously, we put this together in Johnny's 2 years, but we haven't really sniffed it very much, especially not recently. 2020, not terribly far off, but it was a shortened season, so it just wasn't going to be realistic. Last year, I think we hit somewhere right around the 4,700 mark total offense, 2,500 passing yards, and we weren't even really in the ballpark, right? So in my mind, this is fairly bold to go from 4,700 all the way up to 6,000 yards. But if I'm also putting some things into perspective, in 2019 we were outside the top 70 that year. So to go from there to top 20, I think it's pretty bold, don't you? I mean, that's that. I think it's a reasonable thing to say too. I mean, look, we're gonna have. Let's go back over this offense, right? So we're gonna have a combination of talent and experience at quarterback. We have to figure out who it's going to be. King, Max Johnson, I don't know, maybe Weigman. It's too early to say how much of a chance he's got, right? But one way or the other, we're going to have a quality QB, most likely between King and Max, and both look extremely serviceable. More than that, when we get that figured out, we've got a strong offensive line. You've heard me talk about this. I'm really excited. I'm trying not to play it up too much, but I think we've got the left tackle and the left guard figured out. We've got the middle, the right side, ready to go. And we've got a solid running back in a chain. He's got depth. We've got Anias, and again, what I'm calling is his money year. We've addressed another need in wide receiver with Evan Stewart. There's a little bit of rumor that we may be changing up in our offense a little bit this year. That's an interesting thought. We've been traditionally a tight end based offense, and we're going to have another strong one. We've got plenty of those. Donovan Green, Jake Johnson, Garza, Smith, all look fairly serviceable. Going to do the job. And I think if we're going to be changing it up, what we're probably looking to do is throw down the field quite a bit more. I think between the consistency with the offensive line, the solidified QB spot, and the increased talent at wide receiver, I think this is just going to end up being almost a no-brainer. And I think we're going to lean on this a lot early on too, and do quite a bit more throwing, because our defense is going to be a little touch and go up front, at least for the first few games. And so we're going to need to have a really strong offense. So I think we're going to really put the pedal to the metal in this area this way. So that's why I think this is really realistic. I don't know if it's a 10 bold, but if I had to place it somewhere, I think it's at least in the 7 range. Let me know if you agree with that, okay? My number 2 bold prediction is that we're going to have a 1,000-yard receiver this year. Could it be 2? Is it possible? Is it possible it's going to be 2? Anias being one of them. Evan Stewart maybe being the other one. I don't know if it's going to be 2. I just kind of put that out there for fun. I think 1 is pretty good. Let me run down some things for you and decide how bold you think it is. Josh Reynolds was our last 1,000-yard receiver, having to reach back all the way to 2016. Thinking about how this is going to happen, we haven't had one since Actually, I take that back. I think, oh, was it Jamon Osmond? I think we did have, or he might have just missed out. But he was very close one year. Either way, one thing we've been missing is, 2020 was a COVID year. Mon has been, Mon was not accurate down the field. That's just all there was to it. So we didn't throw a lot of big shots down the field. And we've been a bit more run first. If we're going to be a little bit more, we're not going to be pass first, but we are going to be potentially much more pass oriented, and we're going to have a down the field threat. I think it's, not out of the range of possibility that this is going to finally kick into gear for us. And I think we've got also kind of some bulletin board material based off of some things that's been thrown out there about our offense. So plenty of fire there, and I think the guys are going to be using it to our advantage. So let's see what happens. I think that one's fairly reasonable. The next one, number 3, is that we're going to have a top 30 total defense. Now, this may not seem out of the range of, you may not even think this is bold. I mean, last year we had the 14th best defense for total defense. 2020 we were 9th, 2019 we were 29th, and 18 we were 32nd. 17, someone's last year we were 78th, and his second to last year in 2016 we were 90th. So we've been making really good progress, especially ever since Jimbo got in. But we did hit that 14 last year, and that's pretty high. You got to think about some of these offenses we've been going against as well. We don't think of SEC offenses as being that powerful, but I mean, we had to go against Mike Leach last year, Lane Kiffin. Alabama's turned into a juggernaut offensively. And then Arkansas was on an uptick. So we really had a lot to do with this last year and got 14th. I think that it's realistic we're going to take a step back, especially because of our defensive line. So I don't know if we're going to be capable of a top 10 defense. And I don't think we're going to take that much of a step back. And I don't want to go any further. I think going past 30 is not bold enough. If I were to say top 40, that's not really that bold, right? Because if you think about it, again, we're returning McKinley Jackson. Isaiah Rakes is backing him up. Fidel Diggs on the edge had a lot of playing time. And then Shamar Turner stepping up in place of Leal means we're going to have a very solid defensive line. Still trying to work out probably what's looking like on the right edge, but still. We have a lot of capability there. It's just going to be a little bit touch and go early on. So I think we do take a small step backwards, but I still want to keep it bold. And I think saying it's going to stay at the top 30 while our offense is also a top 20 is saying something. The combination of that also is kind of in and of itself a bold prediction, don't you think? So don't forget what we got on the backside, and we've talked about this quite a bit. We're figuring out one position in Leon O'Neal, and we've got a high-end 3-star in Tyreek Chappelle, and basically 4 stars everywhere else, and 1 5-star in Jalen Jones. We got Antonio Johnson and Damani Richardson playing huge roles for us there, and maybe we're looking to put in Gilbert for O'Neal, and we talked about maybe even a Bryce Anderson, maybe even sliding Jalen Jones back and putting in Denver Harris at corner. So our DBs should be a strength, which is going to help us keep that defense, potential up there, because most of the yards other teams are getting in the first place are passing yards. That's where they get the bulk of their yards. Okay, so number 4 is going to go nearly hand in hand with number 2. And I think we're going to have a 300-plus yard passing QB this year. Check me for just a second, though, and maybe we're going to have, I don't know if we're going to have some back and forth between, possibly 2 guys, or if one guy's going to come out and one's going to go in for him at some point, and who that's going to be. So let me have it if our QBs together go over 3,000 yards. Okay, so Mon, I think he did this in 18. He probably would have done it in 20, if not for the shortened season. But before that, you're going to have to go back to 2013 and 2012 with Johnny, before you're going to find that again. Before then, it was a staple. 2009, 2010, we did have the combo with Gerard Johnson and Tannehill, and then we did it again in 2011 with Tannehill. But I'm thinking that we kind of get back to the standard we'd had in this area. So, like to spice it up almost just a little bit. I wanted to go for 4,000. I really wanted to go for 4,000, but I wanted to keep it a little bit more attainable. But you know what? I think let's up the ante. I think let's go for 4,000 yards. We're gonna have a 4,000 yard passer this year. That's got to be a 10 on the boldness factor, right? 3,000 probably a 7. 4,000's got to be a 10. Tell me what you think, okay? Last prediction. This may be my favorite. A chain's going to give us our third consecutive year with a 1,000-yard rusher. I don't even think it's that bold. I really don't. I think this is somewhere in the 5 range. Again, let me know what you think. Do you think it's that bold? Do you think it's possible? Here's how I imagine this happening, okay? And I think I had this prediction similar last year that we might end up with 2,000-yard rushers, and I think we were pretty close. So of course Spiller goes over 1,000, not by much, I believe. But a chain had quite a few yards. They weren't all rushing. He had a lot of all-purpose yards, meaning kickoffs, which don't count at all. And then you have receiving yards that kind of get into this, and of course those don't count either. But he was up there. I want to say he had probably 600-700 yards rushing, and Spiller was over 1,000. I don't think this is out of the realm of possibility again, because I see us starting off with Sam Houston State. We're going to go right on Appalachian State. You got to think these are definitely 200-yard rushing games right off the bat. Now he is such a deep threat that I think he's liable to have some. Want to go back to 2010 Cyrus Gray. He broke a 60-yarder and an 84-yarder against Texas that year. I can't remember quite 2 long runs in a year. I do remember the Kristen Michael 93-yarder against Baylor, which I was there for that game. What an amazing run that was. And I think this guy's going to rival some of those. We might see a really deep scorer. 93 yards, I believe, is the record for longest rushing touchdown. And he has every bit of the capability of doing that sort of thing. So the combination of him being able to do that with regularity, and then we're going to play UMass later in the season, it's possible he could put 200 yards up on each one of these games and already be at 600, right? Of course, he's going to want to get some quality yards against SEC opponents as well. But just thinking about those games, definitely a possibility. We play South Carolina like we have every year. We got an opportunity there again for another 100-yard game. Let's see, we play. Who's going to have a stout running defense this year? I don't think Florida will on the other side. We'll get into that more when we get into the game predictions for the season. But between them, between Mississippi State, between the defense that we might see now that Durkin has left Ole Miss, revenge game against LSU. I think we're looking at a possibility of this happening. Not to mention, we didn't have a bowl game this last year, and if that happens, you get that extra opportunity. So this for me, I think it's 100%. I'd like to put a bet down on this today. But that being said, those are my 5 predictions for now. Okay, so man, that was fun. And like I said, like and subscribe. As soon as more information comes about anybody committing, I'll come on here and make sure you got the news first and foremost, okay? Again, thank you so much for all your support. I can't say enough, and we will see you soon. Gonna do as soon as the season or fall practice starts next week, I'll do a season preview and predictions for win-loss total. And then we'll look at some of the records that I think are a possibility to be broken this year and which ones maybe are out of touch. So a lot of fun things happening, but you got to be there. You got to be on the notifications for them to come through, or you just got to get lucky and it comes up on your feed. Either way, better chance of that if you subscribe. So, like I said, here's to you all. Thank you for your support. We'll see you soon. Thanks and gig 'em.